Bachelor Economic Natural Resources in UNP. Today I will present my research titled The Development of Trade Against Economic Growth in Malaysia. My supervisor is Dr. Fatimah Cik Sulaiman. Trade is a transaction of the buyer and purchasing a good and service in the market conducted between two or more countries, conducted legally in accordance with the law and the restriction based on those countries. Now, trade in a good and service can be done online, which is also called as a digital trade. It can be carried out without having face-to-face between the seller and the buyer. With the technology, the trade will be much easier and it can be facilitate transactions conducted internationally around the world. The problem statement of this study is how far a relationship between trade and economic growth in this study. It will be focused on FDI, export and import for the trade. For the economic growth, it will be referred to GDP. On this is second the following trends of the GDP with the export and import and the foreign direct investment along a 13 years. In this study, constant with two objectives which is identify the relationship between a trade, export, import, FDI and the economic growth GDP. The study the trend between export, import, FDI and economic growth in the research method used ARDL. Test the analysis, the long-run and short-run relationship. Prior to testing, the annual series data of each variable were tested using the unit root using the ADF method. Testing using ADF is done to see whether all the variable has a unit root stagnation at the level or at the unit root at the first difference. This test is seen in two approaches named constant and trend. Tests using ARDL can only be performed if all variable data are stationary at the level and the first difference. After the RDL test, the result will be performed using diagnostic tests to see the stability of the test result by using autocorrelation test, error normality test using Chakabera, zero correlation using Birch-Pagan-Goffin, heterodicity using ARCH, and finally using normality test to test the stability of the model coefficient estimate using the cumulative sum CUSUM and the cumulative sum square CUSUM SQ. The study result found that all variables were stationary at the level and the first difference in the unit root test, so ARDL test can be performed. The result of testing using ARDL method, which one line upward, the result found that the only FDI that has a relationship with GDP in both short run and long run, while the export and the import variable were found to have no direct relationship with GDP in the short run and long run. However, the result of testing using the F-bound test found that overall there is a long run relationship between the trade and GDP. The result of the graph for each variable show overall trends of the variable show a flat tracking, trends decline and increasing from years to years over 30 years. However, the sharp decline value of FDI in the 1998, 2001 and 2009 showed there were a relationship with the GDP where the value of GDP in those years also showed a drastic fall. For the export and import variable do not show any relationship with GDP. Trend in export and import show no drastic change over 30 years period. The conclusion result of the study have answered and clarified research question and also the objective of the study, which is to identify the relationship between the trade with the economic growth, and the second objective is to study the trend between export, import, FDI and economic growth. There were a few suggestions that can be put forward stating policies related to international trade. The second policy to develop and reform related to the second and third industry and service sector need to be more stringent. Lastly, the government need to boost the country industrialization. Intra-industrial trade need to be developed to promote healthy competition to avoid monopolies in the economy, and it also can increase the efficiency of the local industry. That's all for me.